Well, good morning. It's Belinda here. I'm down at the Iramu Community Garden this morning, and today we are going to be talking about tomatoes and basil. So it's the start of November, and down in Melbourne, it's pretty much getting warm enough that your tomatoes can go in the ground now. So what we're looking for is about a week of weather where the minimum temperature is 10 and above. So overnight. So I had a look, and there's a couple of, towards the end of next week, or this week, sorry. Next week. There was a couple that go down to 8, 9, but the majority of them are now 10, 11, 12 overnight. And so we're getting in, that means the soil's getting warmer, and we're not getting those big dips because there's no heat in the atmosphere and in the air now. So we can start planting out our tomatoes into the ground, and we can start having a look at basil. Now, basil's an interesting one because to germinate, the air temperature and the soil temperature needs to be quite high. It doesn't like to be cold. It doesn't like cold feet. So if you want to, so I started germinating my basil on a sunny windowsill, I'll show you in a minute. They're still only quite small. If you want a good long season of basil, then it's either you can take cuttings from last year, which I'll also show you what I've got here as well, or you can buy like a punnet of basil that's already established. Make sure though that you again, you need to harden it off if you're going to buy it from a nursery or anything, or ask the nursery people. Sometimes some nurseries do harden their veggies off before, and their seedlings off before they sell them. If you go down to Bunnings, likelihood they've come straight from a greenhouse. If you chuck them outside with these dips in temperature overnight that we have, then they're going to struggle for a little while. So yeah, basil needs quite a warm temperature, soil temperature to germinate. You can also get warming mats for when you're germinating seeds as well, if that's something if you want to do a lot of. They're about $100 for a system, but if not, either grab some seedlings for basil or make sure they're in somewhere in a warm sunny position, and you don't put them outside when it's really cold. Now basil and tomato, we know, go so well together. You think bruschetta, you think there's so many. We just when I was I lived in Germany for a year, and we went to Italy for a holiday, for a week holiday. And one of the things that I took from there that I love now is just sliced tomato, sliced bocconcini and basil, all drizzled with olive oil, salt and pepper. Nice and simple, and kind of like a piece of each. You can put them on crackers as well, but it's a nice simple recipe because all those flavors go really well together. And when the flavors go really well together on the plate, often that means they're really good companion plants. As we talked about last week, we talked about companion planting, or 2 weeks ago. Yeah, they go well in the ground together. So things that go really well with tomatoes in the ground, things like garlic and basil and any of your herbs as well, go really nicely with your tomatoes in the ground. So if you have a look at my vegetable garden, it looks like there's a little bit of disorder there. So there's lots of herbs that are growing. A lot of my herbs are perennial, so that means that they last longer than a season. So things like oregano and thyme, and sage as well. And then you have your annuals, which things like parsley and coriander. And basil's an interesting mix because if you left basil outside here in Melbourne, 99% of the time it's going to die over winter. It just does not like the cold. But what you can do is actually take cuttings or bring them inside, and you can get your basil to last 2 to 3 years that way as well. And if you're taking cuttings, they just keep growing. You can just keep regenerating that over and over. So what I do with my tomato plants, so I said it looks a little bit disorderly. You have a tomato plant in the middle, and then around that I might have some garlic, some basil, some of the perennial herbs that are just in the garden anyway. And so it looks like it's not ordered in rows or anything like that at all. And that's really good though for your your micro wasps and all your beneficial bugs as well. They love having a little bit of variety on their plate as well when they're flying around, and it keeps a single pest from then decimating your whole crop. So if you have a look, if you had a whole heap of, say, broccoli in a line or a whole heap of lettuces in a line, if the snails get one, they generally go through the lot. So if we can break them up, it doesn't look so much like a, you know, a neon sign, come and eat me here. Then they've got to actually go sift around and find the different bits and pieces as well. So it's a nice ecosystem when you can put all of different things together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly show you my basil from last year, and then I'm going to show you how I plant tomatoes as well. And we'll have a little look around the garden. Okay, oh, we're going to be able to see, yes. So these are my basil seedlings from this year. So you can see they're small, they're about 5-6 centimeters tall. They've got 4 leaves, most of them. Some of them have got 6 now. And they are all new. They've got green stems. They're all new shoots, and they're just grown from seed on my windowsill. These are from last year. Now you see a couple of them haven't made it. That's okay, you know, that happens. And then these are all, you'll see they've got a dark brown stem. That's the stem that I've grabbed from last year. And I've actually got a spider or a caterpillar living in this one. You can see the web there. And then all of these new green shoots are all of the new growth from this year. So this one's got your 2 green shoots here, and this is the stem from last year. So what you can do, I put them in water for a little while. You can see, I don't know if you can see there's a caterpillar, I think, that is making, or a spider that's living here. There's some webs there, but you can see all of these green, this is all the new growth this year. And so they're going to be ready, like I've been starting to use them already. So all I do is I chop them off, chop the branches off as the basil grows large, and put them in water for a little while just to get the roots established, and then plant them in the ground. So then I won't plant my basil out though for another few weeks at least. So they like to be nice and warm. So here are our tomatoes, and we showed these off last week as well. So these are from our, they're available if you guys need some tomato seedlings. Come down, just give the centre a call, yeah, they'll be able to show you around and what's here still. And just a little plug for one of my favourite strawberries. I think I may have plugged this another week, but these are alpine strawberries. They're tiny and they taste like lollies. Now that might sound a bit strange, but you know, like how strawberry lollies don't taste exactly the same as strawberries. So these guys taste like strawberry lollies almost, rather than actual strawberries. So here we have, so our tomatoes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how that I plant a tomato, and I just remembered that I haven't opened the shed. So I'm just going to go open the shed. Now, this is what happens when we get distracted, when there's like other people around, and I'm not as organized as I was every other week when it's just been me. So I'm just going to grab. Okay. Where are all of the... This is interesting. All of the little shovels. Oh, here's one. Here we go.
There's a little shovel near the strawberry plants.
Oh, there we go. I didn't even need to come in here. Didn't even see it. Oh, good work, Joanne. Thank you. So I have my shovel, and I'm going to grab a tomato plant. Now, I'll show you a couple of things with these tomato plants. This is important. I'm just going to grab this one. This one is a KY1, which is just, it's a normal, like a normal tomato, normal sized tomato, not a cherry tomato. And I'm going to see, now this is, there we go. Now you can see how the stem of this is quite purple. Like it's definitely purple, it's not green. And what that means is it's been outside in the weather, so in the hot, the cold, overnight for a while, and it's now what's called hardened off. So if you had a look at those green basil stems that we just had before, they're not hardened off, the ones that were the little new ones. And see, here we go. there's purple. So tomatoes, if they haven't been outside, these stems will be green. Now, this is really important if you're purchasing seedlings or and plants from from Bunnings or whatever, because if they haven't been hardened off, they will struggle if you put them straight in the ground. Oh no, you can't. He's gone. There's a little hoverfly that came past. Looked pretty cute. Anyway, my bad. I'm getting distracted. Here we go. So making sure that the stems are purple. Now, if they aren't purple, all you need to do is sit them outside for a few days. Oh. So put them outside for a few days during the day and bring them in at night. So do that for 3 or 4 days and you'll start to see the color change. And and then you can leave them out if it's a warm night, leave it out overnight. Don't put them in full sun for too long. Like, you know, you got to look after them a little bit and give them a little bit of care. And then the stems will go purple. And once the stems are gone purple, you know they're hardened off and they're ready to be planted. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab this one. It's a KY1. And we are going to plant a tomato here. And I'm going to just pull up that weed, get it out of the way. So my intention today was to come down, do a little bit of weeding before I came online this morning. As I said, I got a little bit distracted with people being around. Okay, so here we have, and we talked about tomato cages and all sorts of things and staking and that last time. So I'm just going to leave the tomato, actually I'm going to pull it out while I plant and then we're going to put it back. So we're going to put a tomato in here, and when we're planting tomatoes, now this soil, we've been putting a little bit of fertilizer on it as we go, but you can see there's a lot of roots in here. I don't know if you can see that. There's a lot of roots in here, and we love our gum trees, but we have some issues with with roots. Okay, so we want to make sure we've put some fertilizer or some compost into our soil. Get rid of that big root. And when we're planting our tomato, so I'll just grab my stand, so then I've got 2 hands then. Okay, this one here. Oh, where'd I go? Ah, lost you. There you are. Okay, let me put that in here. Okay, let's get rid of that. So we have our, oh, can you see that? There we go. So here's our hole. Now with our tomato, when we're pulling things out of the pots, the easiest way, put 1 finger each side of the plant, tip it upside down and tap the bottom, give it a bit of a squeeze, and it should just fall out like that. So then we haven't damaged we haven't pulled it out, so we haven't pulled any of the roots off, and we haven't damaged the stem either. And you can see this tomato plant is definitely ready to be planted out. You can see all of the roots are right to the bottom, and they would have started coming out the bottom soon. So what we're going to do is I'm going to have to dig my hole a little bit deeper. And with tomatoes, it's good to be able to dig them in a little bit deeper than what we expect. So we've got our root system here, and then up you can plant this whole stem up until the first leaf. So, and what that's going to do is the roots won't then only come from the bottom, it'll actually start producing roots from these other nodules here as well and along the stem, which then gives it more stability as it's growing. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to tease the roots a little bit. I'm going to place it in the hole, and you can see it looks like it's going to get a lot shorter in the hole, and that's okay. And you can even, when we're putting in the hole as well, we can put the stem, oh, can you see that? Put the stem on a little bit of an angle, and then these roots are going to develop nicely. Actually, I'm going to put it in at an angle this way. So it's going to look a little bit funny to start with, and it's going to look like, you know, your tomato might be like a good couple of inches shorter. That's okay. So we're going to put him on the side, and what will happen, and it actually looks like at the moment it's laying down, because plants grow towards the sun, that'll, by in the next couple of days, that will just stand up straight, and then we can start putting our stake and everything on there, or our cage over the top, and stake that tomato. So that's how we're going to plant our tomatoes. So we're going to plant them nice and deep. So there's the first leaf right here. So we've added like an extra chunk in the soil there, and we're going to make sure that we then, once it's planted, once this is straightened up, then we're going to put our cage back over the top. And this is just loosened up a little bit there. So that's basically how to plant your tomatoes. And then when we've got our tomato in, then we're going to plant, I'm not going to do it today because I still am not 100% sure if it's warm enough yet for our basils, and putting our basil in. And they also, the other thing with basil is snails love basil and caterpillars love basil. So make sure that you protect your basil before you put it in the ground, or you're gonna lose a lot through those little critters. So once we've put our tomato in a garden, these garden beds, you can probably put 2 tomatoes in here. We don't want to put too many because remember, tomatoes grow. These are about a bit over a meter wide, maybe 1,200. But we don't want to completely if we put 4 tomatoes in here, there won't be enough sunlight and everything getting to the ground as the tomatoes grow for all of the other things that we want to put in there. So I just want to show you around our garden a little bit. The raspberries are coming up now, and so all of this is the new growth from our raspberries. Our peas have fallen off their stake, so what we'll be doing in the next couple of weeks. If you can see, you can see that. So this is our peas, and if I'll just pop this one open. That's all the seeds in there that we'll be able to collect in the next, I could probably collect most of these today, and they will be all ready for next season, so we can then share that with people as well. So we got our raspberries here. Oh, that's not a raspberry. That one looks a little bit different. Must be a different berry. So we got all of our berries here, and then our peas that, there you go. See, they're all dried now as well, so they're ready to go. I wanted to show you also over here, we've got something called yacon or yacon, depending on how you like. Now this is a tuber, and so when in the autumn you dig it up, and you can eat the tuber, and it tastes a little bit like apple, very crispy, almost like a nashi pear apple sort of flavour, and quite sweet. So that's a cool little tuber that we've got here down at the garden. Now I just saw there was a question pop up, but it disappeared.
I've got a couple of questions. One is, my tomato plant is planted in kitchen garden and gets sun around 4 to 5 hours each day. Should I cover it with a white canopy?
4 to 5, that should be fine. Depending on if it's during the middle of the day and you're finding that the leaves are wilting or you're getting a little bit of burn on the ends, you can cover it. When it's small, you can as well. This might sound really, really strange, but I actually go and put, if I have some plants, like, you know how we've just had these couple of hot days and I planted some seedlings last week, I'm like, they might, a little bit of shade for those days when they're quite hot might be useful. I actually grab garden chairs or any just like items that are just going to provide a shade barrier for a couple of days and stick them around my garden. Like sometimes big pots can do that too. Just don't put if they're black, don't put them too close because it emanates, they can get quite hot. But yeah, and you just have a look at the shadow because you don't actually need them to be covered on the top. A vertical structure can provide a shadow too, so you just got to make sure the shadow's falling, and you might have to move it during the day, but that's only for small like seedlings as they're becoming established.
How far apart should tomatoes be, and also basil? Yeah,
so tomatoes will depend on the variety. So sun's coming out again. It will depend on the variety. So cherry tomatoes, and that they can be quite vigorous in growing. So I would plant them at least 1 meter apart, because not only do you want to make sure that you have a space for the tomato to grow, but you do need that airflow and circulation. And if you're planting other stuff around them, you need those things to be able to get your sunlight as well. So yeah, I'd plant them at least 1 meter apart. If not, if you've got the space, even a little bit further, because you can always put lettuces, basil, and all of those things. And basil's quite a large plant when it gets going as well. Oh, like maybe 30, 40 centimeters wide, if it likes the spot and it gets large. And so just make sure you have enough circulation, because what can happen if we get, usually sometime in December, we get a big downpour. You know how we get a few of those random humid days? Usually mid-late December. What can happen if you don't have good airflow is that mold and mildew can start to take hold, and then especially for things like zucchinis and cucumbers, that can then go through your whole the whole crop. So we want to make sure that we've got a lot of airflow, and we don't also want to take everything from the soil. So if you're planting things quite close, they're taking up more nutrients from the soil. So yeah, give yourself some space if you've got the space. Yeah, definitely plant them that little bit further apart.
How do you protect basil before planting? I'd say against snails and slugs and all that.
Yep, I keep mine inside. So I have a table inside that I have quite a few plants on. My husband calls it my little nursery. And so there's a few ways. Using snail bait when you plant them out is quite handy. You need to make sure that for right at the start, make sure I put it on quite thickly for some plants if I know I've got an issue. And the other thing you can do is use like Coke bottles and like soft drink bottles, chop the bottom off, take the lid off, so you've got kind of a cone or a funnel shape, and stick that over the top. And that can stop a lot of the slugs and snails getting in. With that, the only thing is that if we do get the days like yesterday that was 30 plus, that will be very, very hot inside. So you just need to give them some air, or lift up a side to make sure the air flows through, because it acts like a mini greenhouse. So yeah. Is that all the questions for the moment? Yep, awesome. So one of the plants that we have, I'm trying to think, I think that's all I have to say about basil and tomatoes, but they are a really good staple to have. Once your tomatoes start producing, we have a really good run of tomatoes, usually from January through to March, April. Sometimes they just take in April, May, they just take a little bit longer to ripen because there's not as much sun around usually. So one of the things that we do have growing here at the community garden is this bean. Now this bean was actually planted last year, and you can see this guy is just starting to sprout again right here. So this is one of them, and the other one has taken off already. So we're going to need a good support structure for this guy. This is a scarlet runner bean, so they can grow up to 2 meters tall. And they have beautiful red orange flowers. You can eat the small beans, but I actually like to keep them for the dried beans, because they just look so pretty. They're purple and black when they dry. And I don't know. Is there anything else you'd like me to talk about, Joanne, or I'm just looking around the garden?
There was another question to prune the apple trees. You mentioned about pruning apple trees. When are you planning to conduct that session?
So small apple trees, you can give a light prune now. So if you prune your apple trees now, they're going to start growing. So they will, because this is their growth season. And so, yeah, if you prune your apple trees now, they'll grow. So if you've got young apple trees and you want to grow them in a particular way, then now's a good time to prune. If your apple trees are as large as you'd like them, then now is not a good time to prune, because they're going to keep growing. it would be when with mature trees, you're doing that after fruiting. So that is autumn, early winter, but so that they don't have any more will to grow at that stage, if that makes sense. Is that spring onions good in? And that's all I could see from that one.
Spring onion's a good companion plant for tomatoes.
Yeah, the allium family can go with tomatoes. Yeah. So the allium family, which is all of your onions, your garlic, and all of those spring onions and that as well. Yeah, and chives. So they can all go with tomatoes as well. Yeah, that's fine. There's the only one, the ones that I'd recommend not doing with tomatoes is potatoes. And that's because they're from the same family and they compete for the same nutrients. So they'll want the same nutrients and they'll get a little bit nutrient deprived. Lost my train of thought now. Strawberries were the other ones. So strawberries are very much loners. They like to take everything. They're quite heavy feeders. And so, yeah, not with tomatoes because you're going to, the idea of having our fruit and veggies growing is that we get the best and we produce the most out of it. So if you've got things that are going to be competing for nutrients, we just will get less of both of them too. So a question actually about the apple trees. I'm just going to have a look at the apple trees, and if we have because we have time, I'm just going to have a look and see what I'm going to grab some secateurs. I'm going to show you something that does need to be done now for pretty much all fruit trees. Is that all right, Joanne?
Yep, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, I'll just get some secateurs.
Meninda's asked, forgetting the exact term, but you mentioned if apples are growing too close, then how to cut them to stop growing in bunch? Because, picking off the exit, like picking out, thinning.
Yes, so that's what I was just looking, and we've got a few. We've got 4 apple trees here at the garden. So I was thinking, that's what we can do now. I'll grab the secateurs out. Actually, are these? Yeah, hopefully these ones are all good. Okay, so now this is something that needs to be done at this time for pretty much all of your fruit trees. Oh, this apple tree's been really good and done it itself pretty much. But what we're looking at here is I'm just going to put that there. When we've got, can you see there's one apple there? Now this one's got a couple there. There's 3 there. This one just has a little bit of dark colouring on it. So I'm actually going to leave all 3 of them there because this one may fall off by itself. And what we're looking for is each of the clusters to make sure they just have one apple. And so far, this apple has done it really beautifully itself. These ones are a bit small yet to work out which one is not going to thrive. So these 2 are probably going to thrive, and this one may fall off, but I'm just going to leave them. We want to make sure they're like the size of marbles before we actually cut them off, because until they're that size, they may just naturally fall off, and we don't want to cut the one that was going to survive. So here we go. This is our next apple tree. See this one in the middle? It's got a yellow stem. It's probably, there you go, without even doing much, it's going to fall off itself. And then these 2, you can leave 2 if you want. I wouldn't leave 2 on everything. There's not a lot of apples on this tree at the moment. So I'm actually going to leave those. If they get a little bit bigger and it looks like they're going to be crowded, then I'll just take the smaller one off at the base. Just looking around. Oh, there's lots of rosemary. If anybody needs rosemary, please come down and help yourself. There's another apple from this same tree. So it's a little bit bigger. All of the others are smaller here. Oh, there's another apple over here, another couple of apples just here. So you could take that smaller, you could take that smaller apple off. If your tree has lots of apples and short stems, then I would take off the small ones, the smaller of the ones in the group. So what I'm actually I'm like, you should see me at the moment. I'm like climbing around all in the garden right now. Okay, so what we're gonna do, so here, oh, this is gonna test my videoing skills. So what we want to do is we want to keep the big one and just trim the small one, just so you know, taking that off. Now here is another two. Oops. I'm just going to chuck that leaf off. There's two apples here. Now these are really close together. They've got short stems, so as they grow, they're going to grow together. So I'm just pulling that one off, cutting that one off too. There's a single apple there, single apple there, single apples all up there. So that one's pretty good. What you will find with some varieties of apple is you'll have 5 or 6 in a cluster. So I have one apple tree that always has like 4 or 5 in a cluster. And so I'm just thinning it down to 1 or 2. Now this guy, later apple, so there's a couple down here, but all the others are still a bit small to be picking off. So yeah, I'll leave these 2. We can see, oh, there's 3 down there. And it's funny because part of this apple tree is got mature apples and part is still flowering. So does that help? And I'm just going to go check the other apple tree, but I didn't see a lot of apples on this one. I have to see. So what you may find with some of your apple trees is, so this dark wood here, this is last year's growth, and you can see here how it changes from pretty clearly from dark to light. So this shoot now is the new shoot for this year, and it's called a water shoot. It goes straight up really quickly. This will have grown like sort of, how much is that? I don't know, about 25 centimeters in like the last few weeks. So and you see at the end of a lot of these, and this one we're growing a little bit bigger. We'll let it like expand a little bit more before we start trimming it off, and we'll probably do a little light trim in autumn for this one.
Belinda, we had a question. Do you do the same with lemon trees?
So your citrus trees are a little bit different. If you have got bunches of lemons, yes, you can. You don't have to. Citrus trees are generally a bit better at self-regulating their fruit. So if they get stressed, they'll dump their fruit pretty quickly. But peaches and nectarines, you need to do the same. Apricots, depends on the variety a little bit. I don't do my apricot because I know that it will just drop fruit if it can't hack it, and it holds on to a lot of fruit, and the fruit's good. So, and my plum tree the same, but my nectarine and my peach, you really need to space them out, or you'll get lots of little golf ball sized hard fruit and not nice big juicy nectarines and peaches. So cherries you can leave. What else is there? Figs generally are okay to leave. That can't think of any other. Pears is same as apples, but they will quite often self-regulate a little bit more and drop some of their fruit at the start, and just not produce as much. So it really depends. You have a look, and if they're spaced so close together that you know the size of the fruit, and if they're so close together that if they all grew to that size that there's not enough room, then just thin them out.
Cool.
Yeah.
Lots of information today. We're going for
Lots of little bits.
The sweet and the savoury.
Yeah. Lots of little bits today. I'm just looking around and I can't see any more straw. Oh, yes, I can. We've got some more strawberries here. So it is still strawberry season. And you can see we've got a couple more down here that the birds haven't got to, or the bugs haven't got to.
I think
Joanne
I left a
hasn't got
couple
to.
for you. Yeah, I think you might find one up high as well, one or two up high. So,
Yeah, there's another one here. And this one may have got maybe. Oh, look. Ah, this one's got done by the slugs. Right, caught in action.
That's a bonus.
Bonus. You can have my bonus. So I think that's pretty much it for today. If unless people have got more questions, and hopefully next week, what are we talking about next week again, Joanne? I haven't got it right here in front of me.
Vines and melons.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, vines and melons, and then the week after. Do you want to explain what's happening on the 23rd,
24th? 24th. Yes, on the 24th, Belinda is going to do a demonstration as part of the Wyndham Learning Festival of a kokedama workshop demonstration. Yes. So if you are interested in learning how to do that, if you contact the centre, we've got a list of supplies so you can do it alongside Belinda as she does. And it's the Japanese art of wrapping a plant type thing. Yeah. So we've got that, and that's on the Tuesday of the 24th. We won't have a garden session on the 26th because it's Belinda's birthday. So she's having a day off, which is totally understandable. She's got a big week that week. And then we'll be back. Then we'll be up to December. Well, where's the year gone?
I know.
Yeah, so, but yeah, lots more topics. And like I say, we're putting these up to the YouTube. So if you either miss a session or there's something you think, oh, what was it we covered under the tomatoes and basil? You can go and watch it and just refresh your memory, and also a bit of apple pruning or thinning. As well, so a double session for this one. So did anyone have any other questions that they wanted to ask? Nope.
Oh, good. Well, the centre's starting to open up, so if you need stuff to come down to the community garden, grab some herbs. There's lots of herbs here. We've still got some more tomatoes and chilies. Lots of chilies left if you like to grow them. And the chilies, actually, chilies are not an annual. You can do it's the same as like what you do with basil, and give them a bit of shelter over winter. And they not only do they look pretty as they're growing the chilies, but some of them have got quite a bit of kick in them as well. So double bonus for those two.
Fantastic. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Belinda, for all your tips. I've got a couple of tomato plants I need to get into the ground after seeing that one come out. Have a great weekend, everyone. We look forward to having you back again next week for vines and melons.
Awesome. Cool. See you soon.
Okay, bye.